today with Victoria Martin. She is Senior Diversity Director of AIG in charge of EMEA and also Asia Pacific. Thank you so much for being here, Victoria.
Thank you for having me.
So you're here for the Women in Leadership Forum series, I hear.
Yes, that's right.
You were a speaker yesterday?
Actually, about an hour ago.
An hour ago, okay.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, tell us a little bit more about what you do, because you have a very interesting role.
Sure, I think so. I think it's a very challenging and rewarding role. So I work for AIG, responsible for diversity and inclusion, in support of our employees and offices within EMEA and Asia Pacific. And so the easy answer is that I focus on talent, workplace, and marketplace to assist the company in maintaining a competitive advantage.
Right. And what is it about diversity that gives a company an edge?
Sure. So I think it actually comes down to talent. So certainly you want to foster an inclusive work environment. Certainly you want a strong reputation and brand in the market. But to get there, you have to focus on your most valuable asset. And most organizations that get it recognize that their most valuable asset are their people.
But why doesn't it complicate things though when you chuck people of different nationalities, of various backgrounds into one place? Does that complicate things?
Yeah, I think it brings a dynamic tension, but that's usually what you need to get to the best results. And so we look very broadly at diversity. If we think about it, every person is diverse solely by their personality alone. And so we define diversity as the power of those differences. I think the real opportunity and the real challenge is around inclusion. So how do we ensure that every employee has the opportunity to be successful, and how do we ensure that we're leveraging the perspectives that come about because of the very things that you mentioned, background, ethnicity, language skills, work experience, working style, things like that.
But surely that starts at the recruitment phase as well, right?
It does.
Yeah. So what are some sort of approaches that AIG adopts to ensure that they're pumping in constantly people into the workforce to make sure that there's a level of diversity that you maintain?
Sure. So I think there are ways that we do that happen naturally based on the nature of the business. And then there are some initiatives that we put in place to ensure kind of a sustainable focus around bringing in diverse talent. We're in 93 countries. And so to be successful, you have to ensure you have local talent, or else you're not going to get the perspective of the consumer or the client. And so that's something that I think we do very well. But in addition to that, you also want to bring in people with certain skill sets, particularly in your professional hire and your more senior levels. So one of the ways that we ensure that happens is by ensuring that we are posting our positions. So the approach is that we are going to let our internal employees know, as well as the external community, when we have a senior job that's open. We are making the commitment that we're going to actually interview people for it versus just tapping someone on the shoulder. And then that we're going to interview a diverse slate of candidates. So that can mean gender, it can mean national origin, it can be based on language skills. But what we want to do is really raise the bar by expanding the pool of talent that our hiring managers get to see.
What are some challenges that you face in implementing this in terms of, surely there are stereotypes, there are mindset issues that you have to overcome?
Yes, I think, well, it wouldn't be rewarding if it didn't have its challenges, and it does. I think it's, I think one of the challenges is overcoming what I would describe as muscle memory. So this is the way we've done things, it seems to be working, why change it? I also think that we all have hidden biases towards something or some group. among a number of things. And I think there is a tendency to subconsciously allow that hidden bias to impact who we think are the best candidates for the role, who we think are the best employees to lead a project team or ready for the next stretch opportunity. And it's not intentional. It's just this feeling that, I'm comfortable with people like me, maybe people who advanced in the organization the same way that I did. And it doesn't matter what group you're from, we all tend to do that. So the real challenge is making sure that we're aware that we have that bias and that we address it in a way that says, okay, I realize that I have a bias towards people who went to the same school that I did. It's no crime to be proud of my school. And certainly I feel there's a certain type of individual that graduates from my university. At the same time, I know that, but I also have to recognize that what I think may be the right fit, if I think that way, then I may be missing out on great opportunities from people that were educated or worked in different industries, but have transferable skills. So we spend a lot of time with managers focusing on the actual job. What are the skill sets that you need to get the job done? And if we focus on that and focus less on this is the type of candidate that I'm used to bringing in, then again, it helps to expand the pool and the thinking around the diversity of perspective.
So focus on skills.
Yes.
And turn off the autopilot that's going on in your head.
Exactly.
Right, switch it to manual mode.
That's right.
So you are taking a step back and reassessing, putting aside your biases.
That's right.
Okay, got it. And does it help when you have a group of people together share opinions so you're not just,
Absolutely.
sort of you're balancing opinions with different people?
That's absolutely right. So one of the things that we try and encourage is throughout the interview process to, one, make sure you're talking about work environment and the company's focus on diversity, but also that you're including diverse individuals as part of the interview process. So we may have an individual come in 3 to 5 times. We want to be sure, and we want them to be sure. But one of the things that you can benefit from by having a panel and having people from diverse backgrounds on that panel, then they're all hearing from that candidate at the same time, and they get the opportunity to share how that individual's skills can support the organization. And then you're less likely, if they're only individual interviews, to hear, well, I realize you had a great interview with the person, but they didn't come off as strong to me. They seemed too emotional about their previous manager, or I'm not sure with their educational background that they've got the skills to do the job. And so by having a panel, they're all hearing kind of the same thing at the same time, and they're really, I think, better positioned to discuss what these skills are. Another way to do that, particularly for your internal talent, is when you're having formal talent discussions. So you're identifying who your high potentials are. Have a group be part of that discussion as well, so that you're not only looking at your talent within your sphere of influence, but you're also discussing and hearing about talent across the organization. Because what you want to do is identify talent for the company, not just talent for your business.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How long have you been doing this? Have you always been in kind of HR? I know you've been in HR for a long time.
Yeah.
What about specifically diversity? What is diversity?
Sure. So I've been focusing on diversity for probably the last 6 or 7 years. Although I would say it's probably been longer than that, but I didn't call it diversity. I think there's been a natural interest and passion for driving the results of the company by focusing on the people. So, how do we identify talent in its many different forms, and then how do we develop that talent so that we can be a leader, not just in the industry, but in the community, where we're benefiting not just the shareholder, but all of our stakeholders.
And where did that passion come from? Has it always been with you, from a young age? I want to do this. Was it always very clear?
I don't think that it was always very clear. And certainly I didn't necessarily think that I would be in the insurance business. Many would think insurance is not glamorous. I think there's a glamorous side to it. But I think certainly I think that my skills lend itself towards recognizing potential in people, and being able to influence managers across different levels in recognizing and developing their talent. And it took some time to understand what those skills were.
And what are those skills?
Well, I think influencing is a big one. So, we talked about muscle memory and turning the filters off. Usually that doesn't come about from formal training. You have to create those aha moments for managers so that they come to it on their own. And so I realized that the best way for me to influence is create the type of environment where they were becoming aware of the derailers that are keeping women and other people from underrepresented groups from having access to opportunity. And usually when the awareness happens, that's when the light clicks, because I absolutely believe that most managers and leaders, they want to develop people. They want to identify the best talent, and they want that talent to help drive the organization.
It's just that sometimes they may not see certain things.
That's right. That's right.
So it's really about, like you say, creating that environment where they can see.
That's right.
Right.
Absolutely.
What would you say, just to sum up, to say an organization that wants to increase the diversity of its workforce? Do you have any words of advice? Some 2 tips?
Sure. So I think that slating can help. Particularly for our organization, we don't institute quotas. That's just not the right way for us. However, we do set multi-year targets in terms of representation at very senior levels to ensure that we are reflecting local talent and a diverse workforce.
So what kind of targets? What do those targets look like?
Sure. So they are targets that are percentages of the senior population. And we look at women globally, and then within the U.S. we have additional ethnicity indicators. Those are things that we can track and measure, but we also challenge managers to look at other dimensions of diversity. And so it goes back to, for the role that you're hiring for, you're looking for someone that's worked in a number of different countries, that's managed in a transformational style versus a transactional style. So we're really challenging managers to think much more broadly about bringing diverse views in. But I think if it's important, you put a goal around it. And if you have a goal, you have to measure your progress against that goal. So companies have financial goals, strategic goals, operational goals. Why not have a talent goal? And so that's why I think, setting those type of future targets and then measuring your progress against them is helpful. But, to your point around what can organizations do, slating can get you there. So it's not necessarily saying, I'm going to put this person in this role, but I am going to increase the candidate pool that I've agreed to interview so that I can really choose from the best people. When you do that, you will find over time, you'll get the diverse hires without even feeling like you've tried to do it.
It'll just naturally happen.
It will naturally happen.
And what's another tip?
And so I think the other tip is looking at your internal population. You have to build a pipeline, and you have to have transparency around career paths. So employees aren't looking for their manager to guide their career. However, they are looking for their manager and the company to provide those tools and resources to help them guide their own career. So whether it's online tools, whether there are developmental skills that focus not just on the technical, how to get the job done, but those other leadership skills. So, how do you exert managerial courage or courage in general? How do you deal with ambiguity? How do you adapt to change where companies are dynamically changing every day? So if an organization can create that platform, then that gives really every employee the access and the opportunity for their own self-development, but also to move into that pipeline so that you're really beginning to build bench strength for your most senior roles.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Great.
And so I've been with Victoria Martin, Senior Diversity Director of AIG. Thank you so much, Rita.
Thank you for having me.